is history, the future mystery. This moment is the gift. Every second.
It is Dr. Sarah Larsen in studio with you of Miracle Makers. Today's show is so incredible, and we are changing up a little bit the format that we're going to be doing in the future. We're going to have daily quotes that come into each show of the inspiring things coming up, and the miracle of the week. And so we'll start with the miracle of the week this week, and I'm going to pass it over to my beautiful husband, Greg Larsen. You just heard his voice singing "This Moment is a Gift" in our intro song. And I truly believe and know that if you're listening to us and with us right now, this moment is a gift. It's a gift for us. It's a gift for you to create what is possible. Who you are is a miracle. All the little parts that came together for you to be able to exist. Miraculous. And for each of us to really connect to all that's possible in our life, we've got to change what we believe. And if we hold the same beliefs over and over and over again, we're going to get the same result. And that is paraphrasing Orville Wright, the Wright brothers. They said, if you keep believing what others believe is possible, you're only going to keep having the same old, same old. So this show's truly about knowing and believing in miracles. And baby, how was your week?
It was phenomenal. Lots of miracles. There's two that came to mind.
Yes.
One is I was out of town this week because my uncle passed away, so I was in Minnesota for his funeral. And so for 2 nights I slept at my dad's house. It was, chilly compared to 90-degree LA. And I was, by myself in this bed in the back room, alone in this dark universe. And then last night I was home again, and I was sleeping next to this bundle of love and warmth and brilliance, and with my eyes closed, it's like, it's hard to even describe what I feel when I sleep next to Sarah, because we're all cuddled up, and it's like I went from this like drifting alone in deep dark space to being next to this vibrant source of love and like calming, soothing energy. So that was a miracle. It was like I was like blessed with the gift of life, or this profound love, and I got to snuggle with it and hold it and like be nurtured by it. So thank you for the miracle you are.
Oh, you're so welcome. We get to do this together. It's so beautiful. We're so busy that at the end of the night, and last night, our daughter has not been well for a couple of days. And so I've been going back and forth from her bed to our bed, which is an incredible experience to be a mom and a wife and awake all day and all night and all day and all night. And to be fully rested in that space because there's such love. The yogis have a term for it, what that is, truvia, this amazing timeless space. And today's guest, in a minute, we're going to introduce our guest. You are in for such a treat. We have stories around miracles around that, too. You kind of said there was two miracles.
There was a second miracle. It's I've been on this amazing journey the last few years of connecting with my roots, because I got cast on this Norwegian reality TV show called Old for Norge, and I was able to connect with would have been my grandpa's father, so Andrew Hegerberg. And so I was on the show, and I got to connect with Norway, and all this great information. Was phenomenal, once-in-a-lifetime journey. And then after I left the show, the grand prize is a reunion with your family. I didn't win the grand prize, but about a year and a half later, I went back to Norway, and I saw the farm where my great-grandfather was born, and the farm and the family he left behind when he left Norway back in the late 1800s. And so, then he settled in America, then he had my grandfather and all that. And all this time, I have never seen my great-grandfather's grave, because where my grandma and grandpa are buried, that's on my grandma's side. So I've seen my great grandpa and my great grandma on my grandma's side, but I never knew my great grandfather was buried.
Nelsons,
Or they
but
were the
not
Olsons,
the
Olsons, yeah.
but not the Hegerbergs.
Yeah, and so after we buried my uncle, we were back at the church. We were having some snacks and stuff, and I was talking to my grandpa's cousin, and we were I forget what we were talking about, but anyways, he mentioned, oh yeah, and Andrew, he's buried over at Green Lake Church, and I was like, wow, I never knew this. Oh my God. And then, so before we left, my dad and I left the area, we went to Green Lake Church, which I had no idea where it was. And then when we got there, it was like, oh, we've been by here a couple times, probably my entire lifetime.
Yes.
It's out of the way. And there we went and saw it. There was the grave of my great-grandfather, Andrew, and his wife, Anna, who both came from the same island in Norway. And that was a miracle for me to have that kind of closure of this, being on this journey, going back to Norway after the reality TV show, giving this presentation, talking about how grateful I was for my great-grandfather and great-grandmother for sacrificing all they did, giving up their family, coming here and going through all that trials and tribulations of being a pioneer out on the prairie. And I finally got to see where they were laid to rest and where their journey ended on that grand adventure.
So you heard these grand stories and knew the grand sacrifice. And by showing up, you got to honor them.
Yes.
Which is so beautiful. The honoring of those that came before us. We get to stand on their shoulders.
Yeah.
My miracle for the week is my mom, who is not internet savvy. My mom is so cute and she's so darling, and I'm so grateful. Every time I write my gratitude list, it's for my mom and dad. My mom was 13 when she married, 14 when she had her first kid. In rural Pakistan, and she basically hid and went to school, hid that she was pregnant, hid that she was married, didn't let her in-laws fully know that she was going to school so that she could be educated. Part of the reason that I'm a medical doctor is because she believes in education so much and made sure I had that experience. Well, she's learning the internet, and she searched the hometown Bahawalpur, which is one of the lands that her family is known for and part of. And it was amazing. She said somehow they're streaming me from that city, the Miracle Makers show. And she was so proud. She got to see the Ghana Boys, one of the previous shows that we talk about, Nobel Peace Prize and all of the work that they're doing, Klaus Nobel. And so that's my miracle of the week. I, as a child, could not believe the life that we get to live. And I am so grateful every moment that we get to share this with each other. And I am especially grateful for the guests that we have in studio. He is just beautiful in his energy and his spirit and what he's created for the community for a number of years. Living in Los Angeles, when we moved out here, my husband would take my TV and my little car and stuff the two in with DVDs or videos of Eckhart Tolle and drive clear across town to a little city called Hollywood. And in Hollywood, there was this studio, a beautiful studio called Dancing Shiva. And when Greg would return afterwards, he would come back so soft and like butter, flowing with the moment. And I, a couple of times, got to go to the studio and be there with the teaching and the teachers. But I didn't connect who the teacher was with the studio until last week. I met our guest, and I'm still holding his name because in the Indian tradition and in the tradition of honoring those that came before, you really say their name with such reverence. This man built a studio, had teachers come from around the world. He himself, so educated in the ways of the yogis, in the traditions. And all of us are going to learn so much more about the founder and the owner of Dancing Shiva. It's turning into nonprofit, DancingShiva.com, Welcome, Mas Vidal.
Welcome. Very nice to be here. Thank you.
It's so beautiful. He would go every week. He would teach these courses. He would come back like butter. And the studio, incredible. So many people have come to you, Mas, and shared. What are some of the things that they've shared that the studio has given to them?
More than anything else, what I hear is the spiritual experience that they had, and that to me was really the most important thing, because I was drawn to yoga because of its spirituality, and that was the nectar that yoga has inside. That you go there not just to stretch, sweat, and connect with people, but to connect with something that is beyond time and space, and to find that tranquility, that stillness. I remember a few monks came to visit me, and I had many visit me there, and they said, can we walk in and sit down with you and meditate for a moment? And they said, sure, just let's sit down. We closed our eyes, and after a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, they took a big sigh and they said, the energy is here. And over and over again, I've heard that confirmation. And now years later, running into people at different events in different cities, saying, I was there and I remember that. I wish, where can I find a place like that? I said, no, the place is gone, but you can find it within yourself.
Yeah, let's find it within, exactly. Yeah.
It's so true. What led you to building a place? There's so many things that we can learn about you on the internet, but your journey, your how and why did you build Dancing Shiva? Why did you build a place in Hollywood to connect to the self, connect to the spirit within?
Well, it's a long story, but more than anything, I know that I was drawn back to this area because of past experiences. So I was aware of my role of being here. I knew of certain things, and I knew why I was drawn to those things. And I started to recollect those experiences that I was having in my early childhood. And coming here, and I begin to realize that every experience I was having, every person I was meeting meant something. There was something behind it. And I knew that it was drawing me to the next thing. And it was the most fascinating thing for me. So when I decided to open the place, I was at a very pivotal moment in my life. And it was that moment where I had nowhere else to go. I had searched for everything else outside of myself. And I had listened to everybody else, but I finally had to listen to what was inside of me and who was speaking to me. And when I did...
That is such a key shift when you do that.
It was it. It was that moment, and that moment changed the rest of my life. It was 16, 17 years ago. And ultimately, it was listening and being aware and finally connecting with my true purpose. And that's what drew me to it.
So, dear miracle makers, if you're listening and you've been told it's in a degree, it's in a relationship, maybe in that house, and your sense has been if you get these outside things, you might have a sense of feeling accomplished, fulfilled. And many of the guests in studio, many of the podcasts, many of the broadcasts have shared, it's great to search for those. It helps you understand. But what each of those is helping you understand is how to listen deeper to your voice within. You can get all of the things on the outside that you want and not have that connected place on the inside. The biggest gift that you're ever going to give yourself is the ability to hear your heart, the ability to truly know yourself. And that can't be done from somewhere outside of you. The flashlight has to go into your heart, into your thinking, your flashlight, your searching, your quest. And that's what I hear you sharing, Moss. Your quest now became finding what was on the inside. Is that how you found Paramahansa? Is that
Yogananda.
Yogananda? Is that how you found him?
Yeah, basically, the outer world. I had an experience that opened my heart, and the first thought that came to my mind was this: that what is love, and I want to know the meaning of love. But I knew that it wasn't physical love; it wasn't material love. I said, I wanted to know the source of that. And as I searched and I studied Buddhism, Judaism, Catholicism, I was a Catholic boy. I searched those avenues, but by no coincidence, as you know, nothing is coincidental. I came across his teaching and found myself there. I couldn't avoid it. I couldn't run from it. It was always there. And he presented the clearest path to understanding what love is. Not physical love again, but divine love. That means that you learn to see the divine and understand that the divine exists in every living aspect of life. And to understand and see divinity, see God, or whatever term you want to put it in, and see it alive in life itself. And that's why I was so drawn to his teaching. You know, he always spoke of the intrinsic relationship that spirit shares with nature. They're inseparable. When you separate spirit from nature, there is the beginning of disease, disorder, and karma, the cycles of birth and death, and suffering, as the Buddha called it. So yes, and his work was established here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood in the 1920s. And so there's been so many gifts, and Dancing Shiva to me was a recommitment to his teaching. It was a place where I could really commit myself. It was really not a school, not only a school for the community, but it was my own personal school where I was learning.
Yeah.
And so suddenly now, having a guru and a teaching to follow, now I had a role to play and something to drive all that energy in. So I couldn't run from, why aren't you meditating? Why aren't you doing this and that? Now I have to. It's my job. So,
That's a good job to take, yeah.
it was a tough one.
I'm sure.
As much as it was the greatest thing in my life, it was definitely the most learned years I've ever had.
Yeah.
And the most challenging. I would say the most spiritual years were the most challenging years, gut-wrenching and heart-opening and painful, tremendously painful. But at the same time, very rewarding. And again, each experience and each person that I met there, and I counted, ultimately, I connected with over 6,000 people that either came to me for private counseling, to my classes, to my clinic there that I had, Ayurvedic clinic, and all of those individuals, everyone was a miracle in my life.
That's so beautiful. That's such a deep, deep share from the standpoint. I think the key for me in what Mas just shared is the intrinsic nature of everything. And when we explore our own intrinsic nature, at first it can be painful. It can be very, very much so an experience of rawness that comes in. And I'd love for you to share, baby.
Well, what just is popping in my mind right now is it can be disorientating.
Yes.
Because if you're living in the world of form and desperately needing all that to be stable, which it never is for very long, it's very disorienting. That's why you have to go in and find that deep, calm center and anchor yourself there so you can navigate all of the ephemeral nature of the world, which is always it's moving around, it's shifting, it's never solid, and so you have to anchor yourself within, and it sounds like you set yourself up for a powerful experience of that.
Yes, it was a gradual process of purification.
Yes, yeah.
You're just purifying the mind, clearing the mind, slowing the mind down, and coming into that present moment, living connected, aware, receptive, listening, feeling. All of those things don't come in an instant. There are individuals that have those experiences, but those are very rare things. For the most part, for everybody, it's a tough road. It's a long road to getting there, and it comes with little, what I call candies, sort of spiritual candies that start to come, and they allure you and they entice you to that domain, to that sacred space. It's there.
I love what you're sharing. I love this. I also want to add in the acceptance part. When you speak of, and when we speak of, everything is in a field. So if we are like fish in a fishbowl swimming, we're swimming in water as a fish, not knowing that we're in water until we're out of water. And collectively, humanity is, so to speak, out of water, metaphorically speaking. And when we go back into understanding everything is for us in this space of love, what created us, even ourselves, all of the energy that we're putting out and breathing in is on a very beautiful cycle of acceptance.
Yes.
To me, love is acceptance. You cannot have love without the acceptance of what is, as it is. And you can look at it and examine it through many layers, going deeper and deeper levels of acceptance and deeper layers of, when I first experienced this, this is how I react. And then you breathe in, you slow down. When I experienced this, even with a deeper breath, you have a deeper layer of acceptance and a deeper layer of love that's possible from that standpoint. And so I'm so enjoying this conversation for so many reasons, because miracle makers, whatever you're going through in your life, whatever you believe, whatever is the flow of love for you, moving in that direction and moving in the direction intrinsically of what you can accept more and more of. So if you had a rough childhood, or if you have a boss that you're not enjoying, or if you have a dream that you haven't fully given yourself permission to pursue yet, what are you willing to accept? What are you willing to bring in? And can you bring in a deeper breath and breathing around it? Our body holds our belief system. That's one of the things that I've happenstanced, Moss, into your workshop at Bhakti Fest. I went in, I have a meditation practice. I went in and I was in one of the booths meditating. And again, just a chaotic week, chaos everywhere, so much energy. And so I went into the one and I drew the curtain and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear Mas Vidal speaking. And you were speaking about breathing and about yoga, about the astrology, that the astrologer that you are, this amazing journey that you've been on. And then you took the students through a journey at Bhakti Fest. And then you talked about the book that you have coming out. And in that moment, I could have said, oh my gosh, I came in here to meditate. And here I am. During that time frame, I didn't look at the schedule of what was there, but I stepped into love and acceptance. And because I didn't get up and leave the room or exit or try and create something else, I loved and accepted this was the water, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, as that fish that I had wandered into. And one of my heartfelt requests to thank Moss for having this beautiful center years ago that Greg taught at, that we got to participate in and be part of in a tiny way, in a beautiful way. One of those things, one of those miracles showed up for me when I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't searching for it. I was just gratefully in acceptance of where I was, and it created more love for me in my life the way that I would want it to be.
You were receptive.
And I was receptive.
Like what you mentioned earlier, you become much more receptive
Yes.
to these experiences.
It's so beautiful. Someone that's starting on their journey, Moss, of the internal dialogue with themselves, the quest of looking within. What were some of the first steps that you took?
Well, one of them I felt that was very important is good counsel. I really believe in having mentors and teachers. Yes. And if you look at humanity and history, all great teachers had a great teacher. Mm-hmm. And so that environment is very important, somebody to guide us. You know, in the tradition, in the yoga and Ayurveda traditions, they say that the mother is really the first guru in a sense, because the bond between the mother is the closest, and the mother represents the moon, the earth is the child, and those two planets we know in the planetary sense are the closest planets. They're always spinning around each other. So, but beyond that, you know, as the child starts to develop and grow, then there's sort of a shift, a handoff that occurs. And we need to really connect with individuals that can guide us properly in an environment that is supportive, because environment is our greatest influence initially on that. In that initial path, you need to, go to a community, create a group like Greg created his group initially. And I remember how excited he was about doing this. It was feeding him. And this feeds us tremendously. You know, good company in the Sanskrit language is called Sangha. And that is a way to influence the way that you think and feel, because collectively, the furniture, the people, even spaces, you know that when you go to a certain space, there's an energy in that space, and it makes you feel a certain way. So I'm very big about that, and creating a sacred space and creating an environment that is sacred and supportive so that you can journey inside with courage, with that sense of, I can do this. Because we're all here to support each other. Remember that nature is, in a sense, everything outside of you, right?
Yes.
And that should be supportive to you. You should be connected to that so that you can transcend it, right? The connection to a tree or to a person. You know, the love and the experience that you're having to that person or to the tree or whatever aspect of nature, that's just a symbol or an archetype. But what you want to use is that becomes a vehicle for you to transcend and go beyond that. That symbol or that person is bringing you to a certain place. And if you connect to it, it can take you somewhere very, very deep and very, very profound. And this is what we have to understand, that no moment, no person is coincidental. These are all, often the saying that, God opens the door for you, right? But you have to walk through that door. And that is the experience of transcending those moments and using those moments in a way that allows you to evolve and have evolution. And I think good support, there's nothing like a good friend, a good counselor, or a good center, or a good group to connect to.
And I love what you shared earlier, too. It's so great to have a mentor, and it's so great to mentor others. I think this is one of the keys. When you were able to, you said, I opened up the center and I brought great speakers in. You brought the teachers in. You grew as each of the teachers came in. And at the same time, you had students and clients and patients.
That's right.
So not only were you growing, you had the mentors in place, but you also were the teacher. And quite often, if we want to make a teaching stick for us, if you go within 24 hours and share what you learned with another human being, it sticks. It becomes ingrained. Yeah. And just like the moon is to the earth is to the sun. The earth is constantly receiving from the sun. We are constantly in this space of being, that's our nature is affected by the nature of the sun. Our own nature, how we carry ourselves when we're giving to others, amplifies who we can be that moment going forward. So the guru, the teacher, whoever, however you label it, a really wise friend, a class that you're taking and part of, that's like the sun from which you receive the warmth. And then you become the sun, teaching others, giving to them. Greg and I both have a practice of giving to someone that can never give back to us. Not the never give back to us, but in that sense, the sun giving to the earth. There's no expectation of receiving back in the gifting, in the giving. And that's one of our own personal practices that help us connect deeper to who we are. Giving without expecting anything back. That's a teacher. The bigger the gifting that you can do, the bigger it winds up connecting you to. Also, the bigger you ask, the bigger request that you can make. In that same way, you're expanding out. The more that you become receptive to, whether that ask, the baby step is visualizing one of your dreams that you haven't shared with another human, visualizing that, or whether it's actually going out and creating that. Whatever the baby step that stretches you is, that's an amazing thing. For some listeners, it will be amazing to reach out to their wise friend and say, can you counsel me on my finances? Can you become someone who educates me on how to connect with myself deeper? Or I sense you have a great relationship. I want to have that as well. The asking is going to be the stretching. And then at the same time, going out and seeing possibly someone that's struggling with something that you used to struggle with. And in a loving way, saying it's my practice to give in this way. And this is something I've observed. Would you be open to receiving from me around this area? And it becomes such a supportive way for you to go deeper, listening to yourself as you're creating and saying these words out to another human. You're going to wind up channeling or pulling in wise counsel in order to give to them. And when you're asking, for the bigger person, so to speak, or the wiser person to give to you. At that same time, your sense of who you are will expand just because you asked.
Beautiful.
I'd love for you to talk about your nonprofit, the Dancing Shiva, and just tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, now the center has evolved to a nonprofit, and our main focus is basically education. I'm a really strong proponent of education. I really feel that, for example, that healthcare in a big sense, which is a big topic in our country, really begins with lifestyle reform. If we can change the way that people live and teach people, as my guru Yogananda said, people need to learn how to live. There is a lack of teaching and learning or understanding how to live life. And this is beyond just getting a job and having a family, but how to live a spiritual life, how to live a divine life where you recognize that you are not better than any other living species. You share this planet with all living species, humans, animals, birds, fish, trees, ecology, and how to live a balanced life on this planet. And so that's really the focus of the center now is programs. We have about 5 different programs, all focused on yoga and Ayurveda. And counseling. I have an active counseling practice. I see clients. I do Ayurvedic assessments, look at their Vedic astrology chart, connect them to help them understand who they are. What are you? What aspects of the elements, earth, fire, water, which of those elements are in abundance in you? Which ones do you relate to? And how do you get out there and live a more balanced life? How do you eat according to what is good for you, unique and specific to you, your needs, your body? So that's mainly the thrust of the work. The other side of it is developing affiliations. We work now with a number of other nonprofits, a very large eco-village in India, an animal sanctuary that helps protect and provide education on animal care. So we're developing affiliations now, Dancing Shiva, and working with a number of other groups that we feel are educating people in some aspect of nature and some aspect of lifestyle reform. And so
that's so beautiful. This weekend, as part of the peace, it's International Day of Peace. I'm part of an organization, and I get to, as a doctor, and I learned Ayurveda. I went to med school in India, and so for just 6 months, I'm not accomplished. I've listened to your work a little bit, and wow, what you have learned from the science of life, Ayurveda, the living life. What we deduced this weekend at the International Day of Peace, my group concerned about health healing, is the strong understanding that every being has a body. And that body has access to creating peace within itself. Much of the world is not at peace because we're not at peace in our bodies. The foods that we're eating, the ways in which we're talking to ourselves, the way in which we're breathing some of the time even, creates dis-ease, that energy. And for a peace worker or for anyone that wants to build stability in their life, the first step of making a real commitment to yourself and bringing in the possibility of your brain working to the highest level, to your heart connecting to the nature outside of yourself to the highest level, to your sense of relaxation being capable. Many of the foods are designed to agitate us. In today's society, we've created over 14,000 chemicals that aren't even labeled on our food supply. 50,000 plus chemicals to make us addicted to the food that we're eating. And many people don't recognize or realize their food is part of the process of not being able to relax, not being able to open their heart deeper, or even have access to deeper thoughts in their mind. Some of the foods and the way that we eat keep us connected on a superficial, hungry for something outside of ourselves level.
Yes.
And if there is to be peace, it begins with us. It begins, and not peace in the sense of for our own lives, not even world peace, but stability in our relationships, being able to create. As you were sharing all of the things that your nonprofit does, I'm thinking back to the first day you signed a lease and opened the doors, and the moss that was there taking the baby step. And that moss could not have imagined the miracle that his life would become in less than 20 years, what's available to humanity.
Yes.
Ayurvedic training, counseling. We love to counsel, and we're organizing ourselves. We have a community personal development that people see us here in Los Angeles as well. We love to be there for our community. And in that short period of time, your love for the community organized itself into these programs, into this education, into these resources that people have access to around the world. And it all started with a baby step.
Yes.
And you may not have had the diet. You may not have had the full teaching, all of that necessary, but you took the baby step. The teachers came in. The teacher that you are today slowly developed breath by breath, belief by belief, ritual and process by ritual. And I know you want to share, baby.
You know, there's so much that you've talked about, and it's all so critical. For one, the whole lifestyle thing is so critical, because I just watched my mom and her younger brother and now her older brother. To me, they all died from just lifestyle, the food they're eating, the lack of exercise, all of that, and they all died of cancer. But they didn't. Cancer was the medical condition, but ultimately it was a lifestyle choice that led to that. So that's just so critical. And for me, it's almost like a daily struggle to honor my temple, my body, to honor the environment. It's like, I think it's super challenging these days.
It is.
Because there's so much temptation of unhealthy choices.
Yes.
It's just so prevalent, and it's so marketed heavily to us in every scientific way possible. The subconscious, the unconscious, the superconscious, whatever those. They've got it all dialed in, and they're just like, so it's such a challenge to be grounded in that one.
And so
we're challenged. Yeah, I mean, as great as technology is.
Yeah.
The biggest theme that Ayurveda is trying to teach us, and not just Ayurveda, but even the Eastern traditions, is slow down.
Yeah.
You don't control the pace of your life and the evolutionary, how you move through your cycles. You have to know that there is a grander force that controls and monitors all of life and existence on this planet. And if you think that you're going to take control of that sort of helm and do whatever you want and live life any way that you want it, it's not the case. And we really need to slow people down again. And that's what, to me, yoga and Ayurveda are about. Just slow down, live a simpler life. And when I think about it, and I travel a lot now, I'm in Asia a lot, and I teach out there in South America, and the one thing I find that fuels this, if you look at all these urban societies, there's one thing that's fueling it is greed. Until the world can remove the greed of that mindset,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to change the pace of these societies. So again, you have to make it happen for yourself. You have to go back, which Dr. Sarah was just saying, is really begins with yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. And even another Krishna, Jesus on this planet, they couldn't just change everybody's lives. They couldn't.
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself. You have
Yeah.
to apply these teachings yourself. And I'm grateful. I know it works. I did it. 15, 20 years of doing this work seems like a long time, but I guess when you reflect back, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable when you do the work and gradually you trust and surrender and know that you're in that those divine hands. It will take you to a place that is beyond your imagination. I never, in my imagination, one of the things that I wrote in my book was that, in the 90s, I had a big list. I want to do this, 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 and this, and this. And I looked back at that list. It must have been 12 to 15 years later. I found it rummaging through a drawer. Not one of those things came true. I did not do one of those things. Be rich, be involved in politics, all of these things that I thought I really wanted to do. So, life is what happens in a way when you're looking the other way, And so it's an amazing thing. And it's what you least expect.
Yeah.
It's the area that you least think that you will do well at. And I went out to really conquer that area, an area that was very scary. Who am I? What am I to do on this planet? And to be able to enjoy that now and live in that with tremendous power is very liberating.
So beautiful.
So beautiful, yeah.
And so thank you. No one else can do it for you. And it's amazing what you really think you value when you write it down and you go back and take a look. When you have what you really value in life coming to fruition, you fully realize, wow.
Yeah, because I had discovered I wasn't all those things. And I was told that those are all the things I should be. And society told me, you should do this. And this will make you money. And I said, well, and I heard enough of that. And turning that direction inward was about, as we said, finally listening and finally surrendering and trusting that it's okay to be who I am and be what I want to be.
Beautiful. Tell us the title of your book.
Yeah.
The title of the book is Sun, Moon, and Earth, The Sacred Relationship of Yoga and Ayurveda.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Sun, moon, and earth. And then your website is dancingshiva.com.
Yes.
And so the book will be available there.
The book will be available there. It'll also be up on Amazon. We expect sometime in October. And it's being published by Lotus Press. It'll also be up on their website. So anyone can find it anywhere
Awesome.
they can, hopefully. Bookstores as well. So
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Ma, so much. We're so grateful for you. And
Very
baby,
grateful.
I would love for you to share and make a few closing statements.
Well, all of that will be on our website too. So if you go to drsarah.com and look for the post, you'll see the video, you'll see the iTunes link, all of that.
Yes.
Miracle Makers, if you're enjoying all this, please go to iTunes and rate and subscribe and write us a comment on there. All of that stuff really helps us gain exposure in iTunes. And if the more exposure we have, the more this message will reach other people. So we'd really love your support with that. Or you can go to YouTube and comment on the video. We'll have a YouTube video of this conversation. So there's many ways you can support us in getting this message out, and we truly appreciate each and every one of you. We want you to experience miracles. We want you to experience a life beyond your imagination. We've had that experience, and it makes life so rich and so deep, and we want that for you, Miracle Makers.
And I want to leave with just such gratitude for Moss, for you, baby, for our engineer who's so beautiful in Studio Jarvis, and for Uncle Larry, and for my dad, and for my mom, and for all the great men and women that came before us. We truly do live like kings in this country that we're living in, and so much of the world is counting on us to share our resources, the internal resources as well as the external resources. And so my final message is go out and serve someone today, help someone, and do it from this space as a personal practice to let it guide you to loving yourself more. And so thank you, Miracle
Thank
Makers.
you, Miracle Makers.
Thank you, Moss.
Thank you.
The past is history, the future mystery. This moment is the gift.